Hi, it's Jonathan from Behind the Build, and I wanted to make you aware of a change. What you'll see in the title of the releases is Behind the Build AD and Behind the Build ID. Behind the Build AD is architectural design. Anything associated with architectural design will be released on Mondays. Behind the Build ID is interior design. Anything to do with interior design and its consultants will be released on Thursdays. I would ask kindly that as you hear this, if you could, to find the rating system in the format that you listen and consume Behind the Build, and please give it 5 stars. It helps us with overall engagement and visibility with a new audience. With that said, please enjoy today's episode. Welcome to Behind the Build. I'm your host, Jonathan Jacobs, and today I've got a guest with me from the United States of America. I have a woman who runs an interior design practice, whose work I actually saw not too long ago, photographed by the talented Eunice of Double Space Photography, and I thought I'd reach out. So today I've got with me Brooke Michelsen of Brooke Michelsen Design. Brooke, thank you for joining.
Hi, thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, of course. So Brooke's located in Vermont, beautiful area. If you don't know it, if you're anywhere else in this world and you're listening and you're wondering where's Vermont, take a look on a map. It's worth knowing. It's like some of the most beautiful landscapes in America. Very, very, very well established for like some of the best East Coast skiing and snowboarding that you can get. Hiking, beautiful golf courses, all the rest of it. So anyhow, I've done my pitch for tourism for Vermont. And honestly, that landscape is a perfect setup for what we're talking about today. When you're working in places with mountainsides, valleys, peaks, and big skies, the architecture and the interiors really have one job above all else. It has to connect you to the view. And that connection only works if the building envelope is doing its job. In contemporary work especially, where layouts are intentional and sightlines are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, windows and doors aren't just a technical decision, they're a part of the design language. That's where teams like The Doors comes into play. They work with everything from curtain wall systems to curved glass to vinyl, fiberglass, aluminum wood-clad, wood, and steel. From stock finishes to custom colors and complex installs, they're set up to handle all of it. They work across Canada and to select parts of the US, which matters when projects aren't confined to one region. They collaborate with product lines like Aluplast, Schuco, and Rayners, among many others, and they've got in-house aluminum capabilities and specialized equipment like spider cranes, which makes a real difference on complex sites and challenging locations. If you're curious, there's more info in the liner notes where you can connect with them. I'm always happy to make that introduction. Now, back to Brooke. So Brooke, again, thanks for joining me on this. I always start off by asking people about their past and their history. And so start off by asking you, where were you born? What did it look like in your family? What were your interests, hobbies? What was that like at the early stage of life?
Okay, yeah. I was actually born in Vermont and
Okay.
raised in Vermont. I did spend a lot of time living outside of Vermont and then returned as an adult and started my firm here. But as a young child, I lived in southern Vermont,
Okay.
so a few hours from the area I am in now.
Yeah.
And the third of 4 children. I have 2
Okay.
older sisters and a younger brother.
Okay.
And yeah, we were just raised in a really nice town, Manchester, Vermont, and Dorset, Vermont, when my parents divorced. And it was great. It was a lovely place to be brought up. I really enjoyed the life there, and it was probably a bit of a bubble compared to the real world.
I think
My mom, yeah,
most people experience that bubble though, even growing up in
yeah.
Toronto, we still grew up in a bubble within Toronto. So
It's true, it's true. I mean, I was aware, I suppose, of the real world, but it was quite a bubble, in a really special place. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that young life and growing up there.
and what were you one of those outdoors kids, or did you focus on activities that were inside? Like what were some of the interests when you were young?
I mean, I was born in the late 70s, so I think we were all more outdoorsy then. And
Okay.
we went out and we came in with the bell, as they say. So, yeah, we were outside a lot and we lived in sort of a woodsy neighborhood that my father had developed. He was a builder. And
Okay.
yeah, we had great friends, neighbors, close friends nearby. So we were all like just running around the forest at all times. And yeah, we had to be outside. I have a European dad and an American mom, and I think we just all grew up, yeah, running around to people's houses and being outside. We had a sugar shack on the property, so during maple syrup season, we would be doing that and spent just a lot
Cool.
of time in the woods.
Okay. And did you ever were you hands-on building forts with fallen branches and stuff like that? Was that the kind of life that you
Definitely.
led or no?
Yeah, definitely. I think we definitely were out building things all of the time, inside or out. I remember I had a babysitter who once received a ton of styrofoam. I'm not sure why. I don't remember what they ordered. I was little, but we made all kinds of structures and little boats to take down this tiny brook by her house. So yeah, we were definitely always crafting and creating.
Right.
And I intimated earlier that my dad was a builder, so we were all of our houses were, in progress, and then when they were finished, we'd move to another one. And so I was always dragged around to like building sites and all of that growing up as well. So I think the exposure for me into this world and probably how I ended up here started at a young age.
Right. Did you get to did you get to trade who had first dibs or picks on the rooms in which the new house was going to be built? So like was there a rotation? Whereas the third you got to pick first after the third or fourth house?
Yeah, my parents divorced when I was quite young, so that
Yeah.
that ended early on, and I don't have any recollection of
Fair.
necessarily choosing a room.
Okay.
No.
Fair. All right. And in terms of other things outdoors, were you out and were you skiing? Were you like, was it downhill? Was it cross country? Was it snowboard? Like, what did
Yeah,
it look like?
lots of cross country skiing, a lot of cross country skiing, and then we were always hiking. We, like I said, we lived in the forest and we owned a ton of property, so there were a lot of trails and logging trails through our
Yeah.
property where we would make huge sledding tracks and pick berries during berry season. And I mean, a pretty idyllic upbringing, I think.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and then skiing, yes, but when I was 19, I I gave up skiing and started snowboarding, and I still do that because it's way more
Better.
fun.
Yeah. What no one sees right now is that I have a snowboard behind me on my wall that has yet to see true powder. Anyhow, so what did it look like for you in terms of interest in school? What were the subjects that really like had your keen interest and you really looked forward to those classes versus the others?
I think for me, it was always the art classes and gym class. So I was pretty athletic as well. So I was always on sports teams and captain of sports teams, but I also was
Like
really
what?
into art. Oh, field hockey,
Okay.
softball, soccer, stuff like that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think we were always dabbling. I was always really, really interested in physical education and art. And even like I think back then we had what they called home ec. I don't know what it's called now, but
I
home
don't even
ec
know. Yeah.
was
Does it
really
still
big for
exist?
me.
I don't know.
I don't know. Shop class also. I loved shop
Wow.
class. So anything where I was like using my hands or being creative was much more thrilling to me. I definitely struggled with math. I think my entire upbringing was always a real struggle for me.
Okay.
And but everything else I was fine at and I was did well enough at.
And were you playing those sports all the way through from like elementary school to high school?
Yeah, we started, softball as little kids,
Yeah.
and soccer as well. And then when I got to high school, I was scared of the soccer girls because they were all like cool and popular. So I thought I would try this new sport, field hockey. And I ended up loving field hockey and meeting my, high school best friend and loving field hockey. So
I mean, and I say that because those extracurriculars take away like time
yeah.
from sometimes the different type of social element when you're in school. Like you're not just going out with friends to like the convenience store or something or go running amok. And so when you say you were interested in the arts, were there specifics that you really enjoyed, whether it was painting or drawing? What did that look like for you? Was it arts and crafts? Like what was it?
I think mainly, just the art program and whatever was happening at that moment. There were obviously always different programs happening. If it went, sometimes you're focusing on art or, excuse me, like painting or collage or drawing. I would say I really liked painting and I liked collage art at the time,
Okay.
but really just anything. I loved taking on every project that was thrown thrown at us.
Okay. And so what did you determine was going to be your focus for university? If that was the case, did you know what you wanted to do?
Not yet. I think I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I just sort of went through high school. High school, I know a lot of people don't have a good high school experience. I loved high school. It was fun and a great time. But when it was over, I didn't feel fully prepared to go off to college. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just decided, and because this is the 90s, I decided graphic design was what I would pursue
Okay.
because it was like technology based, but also art. And
Yep.
having grown up with a father as an artist, I mean, he was a builder when I was young, but then he became full on artist. And I think I watched him in his career, it's a very high and low career. And I wanted something from that experience. I felt that I wanted something stable, but yet still creative. And so I thought that graphic design was the answer at the time. So that's what I started to do when I first left for
And
college.
what did projects look like that you were working on in graphic design?
Nothing because I didn't get that far. It turns out I didn't like it and I dropped out.
That plan failed.
And I dropped right out and I went home and saved up a bunch of money. And my friend was doing a gap year and I joined her in Mexico. And I went down to Mexico to study art and live there for a few months.
Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. First, what school? What was the school that you went to?
I went to in Mexico or
No, no,
Portugal.
no, no, no. In the graphic design failure.
Okay. I won't say because I don't want to offend anyone, and I really hated it. And it wasn't a great school because I was a live-in nanny my senior year of high school, and I wasn't focused on going to school, so I wasn't
Okay.
going to go to school. And I applied to rolling deadline schools. So I can tell you it wasn't a great school, and it was in Maine.
Well, but that look. Also, you're talking about what you experienced
Yeah.
30 years ago,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
The
True.
institution would have been okay,
Yeah.
you
It's true.
know. So that's okay, and it's your experience. Your experience doesn't speak for every other student, so whatever. But you okay? So you drop out. Did you had you had the conversation with your parents about doing this?
Well, not really. I
Okay.
just they knew I didn't love it,
Yeah.
and I said I want to come home. So after the first semester, I did, and I picked up a waitressing job and started working in a restaurant and saving my money.
Yeah.
And then when I told them what I was doing, like going to Mexico,
Mexico. Yeah.
they kind of freaked out because there were no cell phones or communication then, and no
No.
email or anything. I went to like a phone booth
I
in
was gonna say you're calling collect.
yeah. So they were a little
Do you accept this
also.
phone call from your daughter right now in the middle of nowhere in
Yeah,
Mexico?
yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, in the end, it was my choice and I saved the money for it. So
Yeah.
they supported me in going and I think saving grace, my best friend from high school was there and doing well and loving it. So it wasn't like I was going completely into the dark.
So what? Yeah. And what was? Did you have a plan, or was it just like I'm just gonna go down and go see her and figure this
Well,
thing out?
no, the plan was she was taking classes at an art school there,
Okay.
and I was like, well, that sounds like way more fun than what I'm up to. So I was going to do the same thing. And when I arrived, the art school was much more expensive than I anticipated. So I found a
Another
Mexican art
job.
school that was much more affordable instead of the American version.
Okay.
And you just had to speak enough Spanish. And apparently at the time I did. And
Had you taken Spanish in high school?
yeah, a couple of years. So I wasn't
Oh,
great. I
okay.
could, say some things.
This is so interesting. I love
Yeah,
this.
I signed up for classes. I took a pottery class. I took a
Yeah.
weaving class. I made a couple of rugs. I made a lot of pottery. I took
Okay.
an oil painting class privately outside of the school. Took some Spanish classes and then mostly like traveled around the country and just
And
was there for
so
several.
where did you initially land in Mexico?
Well, I physically landed in Leon, but then I took a bus from there to San Miguel de Allende, which is where I lived
Okay.
um,
For
for the
how
4 months
long?
I stayed. 4 months that I stayed there, yeah.
Okay.
I think had I not been 18, I would have stayed a little longer, but that was my first venture into the world
Oh, yeah.
completely alone. And so I think when my friend left a month prior to me leaving, and even though I had tons of friends and met all these great people, I was starting to get a bit homesick. And I think I wish I'd stayed a bit longer looking back, but I had a great time and a great experience, and I've been back since, and it's an awesome place. So
So for those listening that aren't fully aware of this, just to give some level of context to the timing of the of when this happened, Skype didn't exist, which is something that most people don't even know about now.
yeah,
Okay. So I just want to throw that out there. That's already like no.
yeah,
You weren't calling someone on like Zoom or
no,
Teams or like any of the existing platforms that are on the internet. So you imagine Brooke goes down there and she's off the map to her family and to friends. And only when they get a phone call is there a sign of life. So it's like that, and as an 18-year-old, it's like a daunting thing. You go down there on your own. You're living by what you've learned from your family on like survival and instincts,
yeah,
right? In many ways. So the total time in Mexico was 4 months.
yeah.
Okay. What was it like when you were trying to figure out, did you ever go on day trips to some other region, or did you go on a weekend to somewhere else?
Ooh, we did more overnight trips than day trips just because anything you really wanted to see, it took some time. So yeah,
Okay.
we definitely traveled all around. We took buses all around the country.
Yeah.
I will say there were some like run-ins with buses getting pulled over and guns coming on board and things like that that you hear about.
Yeah, a little bit of the militia. That's
We were
okay.
safe, we made it through. We were told how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And, uh, we went to we were touristy in some aspects, like, we went to Oaxaca and different places where maybe at the time weren't as popular as they are now, and I'm glad
Yeah.
I saw them then. We had a plans to go to Chiapas and, like, way down in the Yucatan and, but things were happening politically down there that wasn't safe, so we didn't make it down there. We ended up diverting and going, I can't think of the name of it right now.
It's
The
okay.
top of some mountain outside of Puebla where they grow coffee because we asked our Mexican friends, "Where would you go on vacation?" And they said that's where they would go, so we tried it. But when we got there, it was just too different for us, being these 18-year-olds that weren't fully cultured yet. It was, nobody up there spoke English or, and they were just sort of following us around and very intrigued by us being these tall American people with like different
Yeah.
eyes and hair and stuff. And so it was a really strange experience for us at that young age. And I'm glad we went and saw it. It was wild. I guess the sun does not shine there really. It's like in the mountains and in the clouds. And we stayed for 2 days and then we carried on.
When's the last time you told this story?
I don't know. It comes up now and again.
Okay. I just, I'm only just, because as I'm watching you tell it, and you're smiling, reminiscing like what the
Yeah,
view and what it looked like.
yeah,
My gosh, she's enjoying recounting this. This is,
yeah.
I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
what was,
experience was amazing. I mean, we went and saw the Mariposas, the butterflies at the top of that mountain. That was like a 4-hour ride in the back of a truck, and we had no idea it was going to be so cold and a 4-hour ride either because nobody could speak English to us, and we
the
didn't
back of
speak
a
enough
pickup?
Spanish to figure it out. We just paid money and got in a truck, and then 4 hours later, we were at the top of this mountain, which I think it's a little more touristy now, but at the time, it was just not. And so we got up there, and then there's a good million, butterflies falling from the trees when the sun hits them and they start to warm. And then they start like letting go of the trees, and they're everywhere. And you just sort of hike through the forest. And I think the best quesadilla I've ever had in my life was probably on a roadside there out of like an oil drum.
I was just gonna ask you, what was the food like?
Yeah, yeah, it was, pretty basic on up there, but really delicious.
Yeah. Well, the atmosphere also enhances the what you'd probably assume would be the quality of what you're dealing with, what you're eating.
Yeah, absolutely.
So okay, so you finish 4 months of what seems like a kind of a life altering experience.
Yeah.
And what did it look like reintegrating into your standard society? What did you
That's
do?
fine. I flew home. My grandfather, I think, picked me up from JFK or like the shuttle ride or something, and
Yeah,
I went to his house in Connecticut. And I visited my grandparents, and I they were all intrigued, and they had never had a quesadilla, so they asked me what it was, and they kept calling it a quesadilla, and I made them that. And then, I went home to Vermont, saved some more money because I wanted to do a Knowles course. Don't know if you know what that is.
I don't. What is it?
National Outdoor Leadership School. It's like an outdoor program, like
Okay.
Outward Bound or anything
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I wanted to do it because you asked me if I was outdoorsy before, and I was outdoorsy, like sort of just naturally as a kid and somewhat forced as well.
Yeah.
But I wanted to love it, and I didn't yet love it. And so I thought, well, I'll do this, and then maybe I'll really love it.
And did it work?
And so I did. At the time, it's different now, but at the time you had to sort of pick three places and you had to fill out a bunch of paperwork and send it in with your money and hope that you got one of the three places. So I
Right.
hoped to get Alaska, but I got the Absaroka Range in Wyoming.
Okay.
And that's where I went for it. It was a month-long trip that I chose to do.
Yeah.
And so for a month you're in the wilderness with a backpack and you cook all your own meals, and we had three guides, and the guides taught you how to read topos and taught you how to be in the wilderness, set up your tarp, do bear hangs, cook your food. So it was like wilderness training. There's a lot of safety training, river crossings, how to, do a safe river crossing. We were in snow the entire time, even though it was June, and it snowed for, I think, something like 26 of the 28 days in the field. So it was quite
Crazy.
snowy. And yeah, it was probably one of the best things I'd ever done. I think that everybody should do it because you really learn a lot about nature. You get comfortable in nature. You learn how to deal with people in all ways. And then at the end, you have to find your way like 3 days on your own. There's a small group, and 3 days on your own, you find your way to the final destination.
Huh.
Everybody did, luckily. I
As
think
your
everybody.
as your graduation.
But I mean, you're like taught how to do this stuff and read the
Yes,
topos,
yes.
but you don't know. You're crossing through untouched places. So, we came into some wild things, and you come into like a
Like
half-eaten animal, then there's definitely a grizzly bear nearby, and you just hustle on. And yeah, yeah, it's a good time.
okay. This is how you gain all of this experience and exposure to, how, I mean, one, it's funny, I'm going to liken this back to kind of what you're doing now, but if you're an outdoors person and and you're interested in multiple types of activities outside, well, you're going to need storage for that. So when you've now gone through this and you understand it, it becomes a little bit more informed on how you're going to go and design something for someone in, an off potentially off the grid cabin or ski chalet, whatever it's going to be. So what did it look like? So you finished this outdoors program. That was a month, and then what did you do?
Oh my gosh, that was like 1997. What did I do after that? I came home again, saved more money,
Yep.
waitressing. And then I moved to Mammoth, California to snowboard for a while. My sisters were living there, and they had a really fun time, and they were like, "You got to come out." So I still was not going to school. And so I decided to go there for a season. I stayed there for a really fun winter season and through, I think, till the fall. And then I was like, okay, time to figure out going to college. So I put everything in my really old Saab and drove all over California looking at different schools, and ultimately ended up at FITM, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in Los Angeles.
And
That
what
was
was it? What was it about that school that you just felt drawn to?
Well, oh yeah, oh my gosh, I just missed like a chunk of my life. Sorry. I did a little bit of that, and then I decided to move to top. I did this. I went to San Francisco, and I thought I was going to live in San Francisco, but that was like way too much for me to handle as a little Vermonter. So one day I packed my car and I drove up to Tahoe, and I called my oldest sister and I said, "I'm moving to Tahoe. Do you want to live with me?" And she said, "Yes, get an apartment for two." So I did. And then she came out. Was back home living in Vermont, and she came out, met me in Tahoe. We lived there for a couple of years together. And then I was like, time to go to school. I had been taking just general education classes at the community college to get like that out of the way so it wasn't super expensive to go to full on university.
Yep.
So I got a lot of things like science, math, and like all that stuff, English, whatever, out of the way, and all the prerequisites for any sort of career. And then I sought I had already sought out FITM, but I decided it was, yeah, time to go to school and not be a server for my whole life. I mean, I was 22, but I felt like it was time to
Time to shape up.
time to go to school or I wasn't going to go, you know. I had older sisters, so I knew what it like looked like. They of course went to school, but like, you know, I knew what it looked like to like take that time, and then I felt that I could very easily keep doing what I was doing, and I thought I better not do that. And so I was at a college fair. I don't even know if they do those anymore, but I was at this college fair and there was a TV with a fashion show happening. And I stopped to watch the fashion show. And the lady was like, "Oh, are you interested in fashion?" I mean, I was wearing like hiking boots and a LL Bean puffy vest. So I think the answer was no, but I
I mean, that is a fit for what you want to go do outside, though.
I mean, I was in community college in Tahoe and I was definitely outdoorsy. But actually was I do love fashion, but I was not interested in it as a career. My older sister was. But I said, "Oh, no." And she said, "Well, how about interior design?" And I said, "Well, you can do that for a job?" Like that, you can make a living doing that? And I said, "I thought just like wealthy moms did that." And she said, "What?" And I said, "Well, where I grew up, all the moms like that I babysat for were like decorators." And so I just thought that I didn't know it was an actual career.
Right. And what's interesting is that even earlier in Brooke's story, long before interior design became the focus, there's already this thread of interiors showing up through family, through place, through food, as she just referenced a couple minutes ago, and through how people come together. When you look at her work now, especially in contemporary homes, the kitchen often becomes that anchor. In some projects, the range is intentionally the heart of the space, a visual and social center for families that genuinely love to cook. In other homes, it's about restraint, clean lines, panel ready appliances, seamless stainless steel, where everything is intentional but quietly integrated. That level of intention is why working with a place like Kaplan's Appliances matters, because here in Toronto, they have a deep connection to the top brands. Fisher and Paykel, Genair, Sub-Zero, and Wolf, Miele, and for something a little more expressive or ornamental, La Cornue. It allows designers, architects, and homeowners to decide whether the kitchen leads the interior or supports it. What really sets Kaplan apart is their showroom experience. Each brand has its own dedicated area, its own lighting, its own atmosphere. You can feel the weight of a handle, understand how a mechanism works, and see finishes in real light. It's a full surface experience, completely different from a box store and much closer to how design decisions are actually made. If you want to learn more, there's more information in the liner notes. Now, back to Brooke.
And it became very interesting to me. So I looked into that program, and at the same time I was going through those massive books that they used to have, flipping page by page, trying to find other interior design programs that might have a 4-year program. And I just couldn't find any. They were all like 2-year extension programs.
Okay.
Less I wanted to come back east, and I was not ready to be back east. And so I chose FITM, which had a 2-year program, and I got a lot out of it. I chose going to the LA location because my oldest sister is a photographer and she was living in LA. And so, or not my oldest, my second oldest sister.
Yeah.
And so we ended up living together down there, and I went to school there.
Interesting. So for 2 years, that was home.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I only had to go for like a year, not even a year and a half, or maybe a year and a half, because I'd gotten all that general ed out of the way elsewhere.
Oh, okay.
And Pittham's a private school, so it was expensive. And so I had gotten some stuff out of the way, luckily.
Yeah.
And it was a great program. I think like anything, you get what you put into it. And I put a lot of effort into it because I realized
Well, you were ready for it.
what I wanted to do, and I was ready for it. And I think, truthfully, I was being groomed my entire life for this without knowing it. You know, like I said, I had this Danish dad that was a builder and an artist, and my grandparents were Danish and had all the Danish furniture and, you know, these homes that were very European that I grew up in. And then my mom worked for estate sales and was always doing all these estate sales. And so I was always really exposed to a lot of like design furniture. My dad was super into boats and yachts, so we would go to boat shows all the time. So we didn't travel a lot, but I think there was like exposure. Oh, and then I babysat for all these people and I got to go to these really nice homes all the time. So I think without knowing it growing up, I was having this exposure that was already starting to like groom me toward a career.
Hmm.
And I was interested in it, right? But without knowing I was interested in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly that person sparked something in you that made you understand, like, oh my God, I could take everything that I've accumulated over the course of the last 20 plus years and put it into something and make money doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow. Wow.
So, pardon me?
I can do
Yeah.
that.
Huh. What a novel concept. So you finish school, you're now in your
Yeah.
mid-20s.
Mhm.
And what does it look like? How do you go and take what you've learned and apply it?
Yeah, I was a very good student, top of the class, and to my surprise. And with that came some things. I also applied for every grant and every scholarship available. Nobody was doing that. And I would just go into the guidance counselor or whatever they're called at
Yeah.
college and get all these things. And I would apply to all of them and I would get them all. And then I had money to pay for the school and everything. And so I was getting exposure. Plus, I was volunteering at like all of these home tours in LA. And then they take some of the portfolios from the graduating class and they sort of have back then they had these like I don't know what they were, but they must have invited people in to look at the portfolios because they were physical. And I started getting job offers in some firms in New York and some firms in LA, but I didn't do anything with any of that. I knew a girl from class who needed who worked for an architecture firm, and she normally dog sat for them, but she couldn't dog sit for them anymore because she had a dog. So she gave me the gig, and it was an amazing gig because they I got to stay in this sick house in the Hollywood Hills and watch a dog, and at the time I think they paid me $50 a day, which seemed like
A
so
lot.
much money to me for doing pretty much nothing.
Hold on.
And
Yeah, let's talk about that for just a moment because again, I want to make people aware of what $50 a day meant then.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay? Because it's a different time.
Yeah. It was like
Uh
what, 2001 maybe.
2001.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I know when I was working at minimum wage in the mid 90s, late 90s, minimum wage was anywhere between like 385 and 465 maybe.
Yeah.
So you go work a
I
10
wasn't
hour
even
shift.
working. All I had to do was walk a dog that wouldn't even
That's
take walks because it had
that's
so
what
much
I'm saying. If
anxiety,
you went got a job and you were making minimum wage, you could work an 8 hour shift and not walk away with more than $40.
right?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So $50 a day to go stay in a nice house, walk, look after a dog. Great job, great gig. You nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the owners of this home, the husband was an architect and the wife worked for him doing like accounting.
Okay.
And he was very successful.
Yep.
And I had won one of those scholarships I mentioned, and there was an article written about me in the Pasadena Star News with a very embarrassing photo of me and like surrounded by my drawings, my
Mm.
hand drawings from school. And I left it for them to read just because, like, I was proud of it, I guess. And then they said, "Hey, do you want a job when you graduate?" And I was like, "I don't know." And so I went and interviewed with them and I accepted the position with them because I was not staying in LA. I wanted out of that place. But they were moving to Park City, Utah to start a new development company we're developing high-end residences. And I had a bunch of friends that were there because they worked for the US ski team. So I was like, yes, I want to go there. And I want to be in a ski town and I want to get out of the city. And so I took the job knowing that we were going there. It was supposed to be within like less than 6 months, but I stayed in LA after graduating another 11 months. And then we ended up finally moving to Park City.
Okay. And what was that like? I mean, I mean, you're talking about like just
I know. Sorry. My
constant
life is
movement.
nuts.
It's amazing.
I think I've had like 35 apartments. Yeah, so yeah, it was amazing. I was 24. I had all these friends there that I'd grown up with in Vermont that were, like I said, working for the ski team. So I already had friends,
Yeah.
and then I made new friends, and I
Yeah.
got to snowboard.
And yeah, you're in Park City. It's
And
like
I'm in Park City. I mean, it wasn't what it is now, but
it
it
doesn't
was,
matter. It's probably better then.
yeah, it was way better then. And I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, it's pretty cool now too. And yeah, I worked for them for 5 years, and then I think I was starting to feel like I can't keep staying here and doing this, I should branch out. And so I decided I wanted to move to Portland, Oregon after 5 years doing that. And I did do that, which was probably my biggest mistake in life. But, what are you going to do?
You got to make one or two.
Yeah.
You just have to. I mean,
Some people love it. I couldn't get down with all the rain and fog. And, I know Vermont is gloomy, but it is nothing compared to the gloominess of the
Portland.
Northwest there.
So how long were you able to manage that location?
I stayed for about a year. I tried to find a job with other like interior design firms at the time with even Jessica Helgerson, who was just like starting out really, kind of newer on the scene. But she wasn't, she was really small. She did respond and was very sweet. It's like I just not growing yet. And then a few other places. And then I was offered a job at a few places and none of them felt good to me. So I ended up just taking a job with this company that was called Eco House, which was a store, like a hardware store, but everything was eco-friendly.
Okay.
And I did that because I thought, well, this will enhance my skill set in that area. And then this is probably the way of the future. And so we should know more about this. And so I really like, even though I was mostly in sales and then I eventually started doing like a kitchen stuff with them, I lasted about a year and a half with them. I ended up moving to Bend, Oregon and still working for them. And I loved Bend. But then I was in Bend and the store decided to close. And I was like, shoot, what am I going to do? And then my sister, who's the photographer, was living in New York City.
Yeah.
And she happened to be on a photo shoot with Jennifer Aniston for like the cover of Harper's Bazaar. And she was having a birthday party, I think, or something
Yep.
for her. And she invited my sister and the photographer, the other photographer, to this dinner. And then, so my sister went and her interior designer was there, Stephen Shadley. And she said, oh, my sister's an interior designer. I should have her send her resume. And Stephen's like, yes, I need help. Like, yes, please have her send it. And so I was mortified and scared. So I sent my resume to this guy, this fancy interior designer in New York City. And I sent it, I think, 5 times before he actually opened the email. I would have sent it once. So I have to say, my sister really pushed me to keep resending it. And then she said, just call. And so one day I think I did. I sent it the 5th time and then I called and he actually answered the phone and I was so nervous and I was like, oh, this is Brooke and you were that, I explained the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And so anyway, he was like, yeah, well, this is great. Yeah. Why don't you come do an interview? Where are you? And I said, well, I live in Oregon, but I'll fly over and I'll interview. My sister lives in the city. I'd love to visit her. And so I flew to New York, I did the interview. On the way to the interview, I was so nervous. And I'll tell you this is because it's very funny. I was so nervous.
Everybody get ready.
The subway was so hot and it was like March, but it was like one of those steamy, gross, like foggy, wet March days. And it was so and humid. And I have really curly hair. So in the humidity, it's even worse. And
Yep.
so
You're talking to a person with curly
I know,
hair.
I see. Yeah, this is why mine's up. And so anyway, I'm walking with my sister. I had gotten like an outfit at like whatever I could afford, like Banana Republic or something.
Yeah.
And I had this like green sort of silky shirt on and I had sweat so much on the train ride in that it looked like the size of basketballs, like under my dripping in sweat under my silk shirt. I'd probably fake silk. And so I was like, what am I going to do? We're almost there. And so my sister and I went into like a Bed Bath and Beyond. And I'm at the hand dryer, like drying my arm
shirt.
It was so like we tried to buy another shirt, but it was like just nowhere to buy a shirt. And so I was like, no choice, no choice. And so I go in, I dry my armpits, ring the doorbell at Stevens, and they let me in and I have to get in an elevator, which is like not my favorite. And I go up to his office and, I meet with his team and they're so amazing. And I, of course, had a physical portfolio with pictures.
Yep.
There was 2007, I guess, 2008,
Yep.
something. So I flip through it and the whole time I'm like keeping my arms kind of like sealed down to my sides, hoping like they don't see the situation that's happening. And then I leave and everything. And then, they call me up a few days later and he offers me a job. And I was I was either moving to New York or I wasn't. So I got the job. So I packed up my crappy little car and my best friend from high school flew out and we drove across
Drove
the
across
country
the
together.
country.
Yep. Same friend that from Mexico. She comes back in my life a lot. And drove across the country. I think I had like practically no money to my name. I was almost 30 and I started my job with him on my 30th birthday. And
Really?
I commuted from Connecticut for a few months. I lived at my grandparents for a few months to save enough money to afford New York City. And yeah, then I worked for Steven for 5 years, loved it, and I eventually told them this story about my armpits because we were all very close and they were dying and they were like, "Oh my God, we just thought you were so nervous and you were like flipping the pages." Like they all could remember me doing
Like
this
a
thing.
robotic.
So anyway, it was a lovely time, a lovely relationship. Amazing because obviously if you know anything about him, you should have him on. He's phenomenal. He's a great storyteller, but he's just a sweet person and an amazing designer. And he all the Hollywood homes. So I got to work on all these amazing Hollywood homes and lots of stuff in the city. So that exposure was great. And I think that when I chose to leave him, it wasn't to leave him. It was to get out of the city.
Right.
And I was done. I was done with New York. And so I came up to Vermont, never thinking of returning here ever. And just thought, all right, my sister's in Vermont now. She's got kids, the photographer one.
Yeah.
I want to be near her with her little kids, and my parents are still there, so I'm going to do it too. But I moved to this Burlington area of Vermont, Stowe,
Yeah.
close to Stowe.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've shared this story maybe once before. I can't remember who I shared it with, but in a similar fashion to what you just described. When I first interviewed with Bruce, who's one of the founders of Walden Homes, I didn't really have an issue. I was never really like I would never got really shy about interviews. My face turns red, but like I
Yeah.
don't care. The day that I was going to have my interview with him, I had had a coughing fit in advance of meeting him. I don't remember what had happened. I think I like choked on something, and I was coughing so badly that I had burst the blood vessels around my eyes.
Oh my God.
And it was brutal. So I mean I looked like a drug addict. And I went into the interview and I had my sunglasses on and I didn't want to take them off. And I'm thinking this entire time, he's like, this guy probably thinks you're some idiot.
Oh
Sitting
my God.
with no sunglasses on. And eventually I just said, I was like, I gotta just share the story of why this is happening.
That is too funny.
Yeah, I still think back on that all like same thing years later. You're like, wow, the things that you kind of go through that you at the time you just have to figure a way through them. So, what year was it that you founded your practice?
Yep. That's I moved up to Vermont and in like 2013. I
Okay,
think it was like June of 2013. And then in November of 2013, I founded my own company.
there's a few questions I have on this. One, what did it feel like, when you were registering the business? Did you have any of the same trepidation or fear that you had experienced previously in other, I'll call them pilgrimages, over the years? Or was it something that was like a new sensation of excitement? Like what was it?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think I had no idea what I was doing. I just was like not finding any designers around here that I wanted to I had just worked with like the best, right? And
Yeah.
I think there are lots of designers, great designers here, but like none with the aesthetic that I was like hoping to be within and it's more, a little more contemporary and such. So I thought, well, I guess I just have to start my own thing. And I went in and got like a business license and just sort of did it and started with nothing really. Somebody knew somebody who needed their condo done. And so I did that. And then, somebody else knew somebody, and it was all just people who knew me from like life, I guess. And somebody my age wanted to do this renovation. So I did a huge addition to their house and it all just started like that. But it mostly started because when I came up here, I thought, I'm just gonna go back to serving tables for a little while. Meanwhile, I'm 35. And I thought, oh, it's good money. It's easy. I'll figure out what I want to do. I'm not sure I want to stay in interiors. But then, I worked in the restaurant for just a few months and was like, oh, no, no, no.
This ain't
I,
it.
this ain't it. And so I, I reached out to a really high-end architecture firm here and asked them if they were would ever hire an interiors person if they had an interiors department. They said we do not, but come in. We're seeing your portfolio. It looks very like this is in line with what we do. Come in for an informational interview. So I went in for an informational interview with this architect, and he said, I'll give you some space, some office space, and you can use our programs, but you should definitely start your own thing because we need someone with your aesthetic here, and it would be really, really great. And I think there will be plenty of work for you if you start something. So I said, all right. And so that's when I went down and got the villa and all the stuff. And then I had a little desk there and, AutoCAD, and just sort of started. And now I am married to that architect. Uh,
Woohoo!
yeah. So it didn't take long there. And we have a couple kids together. And yeah, he's a really super successful architect. And we collaborate a lot. And that has been probably, I think, I like to think that I still would have done really like well for myself and found work and things, but because he already had quite a name and quite a following and his work is so good that I think he started like pitching me to certain people, and of course I had to interview, so I've always interviewed on my own and I run my
Yep,
own company and I have to get the job still, but I
yep.
ended up getting most of them. I mean, I think almost all of them. And so I've sort of collaborated with him mostly through all these years, and I'm still doing that even though we have some external jobs and repeat clients that come along.
And what does it look like for you in the evolution of your business since that
Yeah.
desk space and
Yeah.
a couple of those renovations? As you grew and more people started to understand who you were and what type of aesthetic you would come forward with, did you ever feel like you were pigeonholed in a certain way, or do you feel like you've always been able to design the way you want to design for the client that you attain?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think there are some designers that have a very solid aesthetic and they run with it. I like the challenge of like variance and different, just all different things. So some people it tends to be a little more contemporary for us, but not like hyper modern or anything. I'm sitting in a farmhouse that I did with my husband, and I love doing all those charming details. I'm renovating 1840s Victorian now. So like I think we're very diverse in what we can do that,
Yeah.
but we don't probably have enough of that out there yet to show like our full diversity and capability. But yeah, sitting at that desk then was different and hard. And I was working for like another design firm in the area as a contracted employee because I needed to make some money and then grow my own business. And then when I
Yeah.
grew my business, I think it took about 2 years, and then I grew my business enough that I didn't need to do that anymore. And then I was pregnant, and then I had a baby, and I kept doing all the things. I mean, my daughter was like in the ergo, like from the moment she was born on job sites, um, and both of them. And so I was busy, and it was hard to be a full time mom and a full time interior designer,
Yeah.
which I think people who are interior designers know how much work it is, but people who aren't think you just like throw pillows around all day.
Yeah, I know.
So it's like an intense amount of work, a lot of detail, lots of paperwork.
Yeah.
The ordering is a lot, the filing taxes is a lot. It's all a lot. And I said to my husband, like, I'm either quitting or hiring because I cannot do this by myself
Because at
anymore.
the time you're talking, this is when you had started this and you
Hmm.
were doing it all alone.
Yeah, I did it by myself for a long time. I think until my daughter was 3 or 4. And then, so like 7 years maybe by myself. And
Okay.
then
All the invoicing,
everything. And I
every
wasn't doing it well. I'm sure I was cutting myself short the most, like not tracking all my hours. And
yeah.
yeah, there was like some accounting things that were done incorrectly that I paid for later. And it's too much. And I think like in if I could teach anybody anything, it would be to go, the first person that you hire is a bookkeeper. Like, do not hire designers because you're like, this is what I know, but bookkeeping is like absolutely my weakness. And it's not a huge spend, especially if you can do it like remotely, and
Yeah.
you're not, so I think that was my biggest mistake in looking at my company so far, was just like not dealing with that first. I mean, I did
So,
fine,
so
but
what did you do? Who was your first hire? What
yeah,
role,
so
I should say? What role?
I did hire a designer first, and so that was, I think, I don't regret it because she was awesome, and I really enjoyed working with her. And she's no longer with my firm, but she was here for 3.5 years, and I hired her because she'd gone to my husband's firm, and he's like, I don't hire interior designers, reach out to my wife. And
Yeah.
so I met with her. It was kind of COVID times, so
Yeah.
we took a hike, and during our hike, we just like got to know each other, and I can tell from talking to someone whether or not they have the skill set that I need them to have. Because if they don't understand like certain things that I'm saying, then it's like obvious they're not going to work out, right? And she was grasping it all and saying all the right things, and so I hired her part time at first because she was wrapping up a job, and then she came on full time.
Okay. And how did it feel to, for the first time in your now independent career,
Yeah.
handing off work to have someone else do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's hard to do, but
Yeah.
I still oversee things, and I still am marking things up and making, final decisions. But I was happy to offload all the AutoCAD drawing. I was tired of drawing. I mean, my arm, my wrist, like my shoulder does not want to do drafting anymore. And so it was a really big relief to like not have to be doing all that drafting, which is one of the most time consuming parts of it,
Mhm.
because you're also, as the principal, I'm like client facing all the time. So I was just up. This is when I said to my husband, I was like up. I still am up all the time late at night working, but I was up late too much. And I was like, I can't function like this. So,
Yeah. It's not, well, it's just not sustainable.
mhm.
So your first hire was someone in design, and
Yeah.
did you need to hire someone else after that? And what was that? What was that next
Yeah,
step?
we were growing, and she had helped me. She was great because she's younger than me. She helped me put into place like things I had wanted to do, but, like, didn't have, like, the capacity to take on one more thing by myself, and
Yeah.
I knew we needed a program like Studio Designer, which is what we ended up getting,
Yep.
to do, like, accounting and all of this, and so, being that she was younger than me and all of that, she could easily start running with that and, like, get it going, and we could track our time better and everything. So, she took a lot off our hands, but we had a lot of work, and we just had more coming, and so we weren't looking specifically to hire someone. We had received a resume that was very good, and I thought, in this climate or, like, location, if you get a good resume, you don't you whether or not you're hiring me, you should certainly interview the person because they might be able to help you out. And so this girl was very skilled and seemed really cool. And so we invited her in for an interview, and we really liked her a lot. And being just the two of us getting along so well, we wanted for sure to get along with a third.
Yeah.
Uh, and she worked for us remotely at first because she was living in Connecticut, and then moved up here and worked full time, and still works for me full time, and is now like, a senior designer for us.
And so
So yeah.
when did you hire your bookkeeper? How many people deep?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't even know. I don't remember. I think my husband and I have some financial advisors, and I said to them, I think I need a better accountant or a new accountant, and I think I need a bookkeeper. And so somebody recommended somebody, and so I got this bookkeeper, and that made my life like 1,000 times better. And that's
Yeah.
why I say it should have happened like first. And she's still our bookkeeper, and it's great. I still probably don't know enough about the bookkeeping, and I should
But
probably have.
you don't need to. That's the beauty of it.
I know, but it's hard. Like you said, it's hard to relinquish control of things, but it's also impossible to do it all. So,
Yeah. I think a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people struggle with that. No matter what size the business is, there's always a facet as you continue to grow that's a challenge to let go of.
mhm. I
It
think though, like people's we're a studio of four, and I think that people's everybody else's opinions or even views, and it's really it's collaborative, and it enhances the entire overall project to not be so singular too. Because I mean, I could have kept doing it alone, but like I would rather someone be like that fabric looks weird, like it's good to even if I'm like ultimately still use it, I still want I welcome the opinion.
right. And initially you were telling me, telling us, those listeners, about the idea that most of what you had acquired was local. And so, what does it look like now in terms of one would be number of projects, two, scales of project, and is there still a wide variety in scale?
Mhm.
And three, what about locations?
Yeah, mostly still in this area of Vermont. It's a lot of
Okay.
second home owners or people that are building their like retirement home.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say we're mostly in Vermont, but we have something in New York. We have something in Indiana. So we've got like some Northeast stuff going on, Massachusetts, things like that. But mostly things are here. I think it's like 10 projects right now, which is a lot for how small we are.
Yeah.
But they're all at different stages and everything. I mean, we have just a few. I don't typically take small things because we just don't have like the capacity for it. The smaller jobs,
What's your definition of smaller job?
just like somebody saying, I want a living room and bedroom
Yeah.
refresh.
Okay.
It's not like there's no money in it, and like this is a business, right? I have to pay my employees, and so like I want desperately to help those people out a lot of times,
You don't
but
do
a lot of times
sponsorships?
I can't. Huh?
You don't do sponsorship projects?
But, yeah, like, sometimes I just can't, and sometimes if I feel like we have a small, like, buffer window and I'm like, "Oh, it's 2 or 3 months of, like, helping out this small thing," then
Yeah.
we'll do it, but the problem is they never are that small. They end up kinda going along and along and along, and so, mostly we're starting ground up. We start at the beginning, right, with the architect really in the
Yeah.
space planning, and we go through 2, 3 years per project,
And
and
so,
all high-end residential homes.
okay. Are they renovations in new homes, or are they more just new homes?
Mostly all are ground up new homes.
Okay.
We have a couple of renovations.
Okay.
Mhm.
And are any of these projects, do you ever have someone looking to do something like net zero or totally off the grid? Are they are they the active client where there's a lot of space planning that has to happen for all of the different equipment and things they like to do? Like, what does that look like?
Mhm. Yes, one right now actually that I have to dive into is very active. And they have a lot of family members and I'm like, "Where am I gonna put all these bikes and canoes?" But I think a lot of the, like, net zero and all that kind of stuff comes in more through the architecture and, like, people requesting a lot of, like, geothermal and all those things, and
Yeah.
when it comes to the interiors, they're really more like we get a lot of requests for things that are more local, like people are being, thinking about shipping and not ordering a lot from overseas because of just the impact on the environment and all of that. And so,
Yeah.
our one of our recent projects that wrapped up, like very few things came from Europe. Mostly everything was sourced as locally as possible, including like finishes and like we did like plumbing from the United States and things that were like as local as they could be to
Right.
you know, the area. So that's kind of more our level of like something that's a little more environmentally friendly. And then I'm a big fan of natural materials and fibers. So lots of like linen and wool versus synthetics and things like that. And indoor air quality, like things like that are kind of I would say how our projects are more like environmentally impacted.
And do you work? Are you ever working with like consultants on material selection to understand like carbon impact and stuff like that, or
More,
is
we just are in the middle of a museum project right now,
oh
and
really?
museum project had, and one home had some environmental, but they're working more with the client than us a lot
Okay.
of the times. They're hired by the client, and the client sort of reviews everything. We're doing our work up to it, finding if it's like B2B or whatever, not B2B, a B Corp or whatever. If it's meets the standards they've told us. We've had a few clients like that. And then they take it to the next level to their specialist, and the specialist reviews it and decides if it's safe to use for them.
Okay. And so what are some of the ambitions you have now for the practice at the stage that it's at? Are there regions that you'd really want to work in, or is there a certain location? Is there a certain aesthetic that you've not been able to do yet that you want to do? I'm talking about talking some of these things into existence.
Yeah, I love that. We do that a lot around here. Well, as a business, I would like to develop a furniture line. And
Okay.
so I think that's something I design a lot of pieces, and I would really like to start um cataloging those and having my own furniture line. And then I think for me, it's just like always keeping everybody on my team happy and excited about work. And I think keep working on the homes that we're working on. This museum has been really interesting and difficult because it's outside of, residential. So that
Well,
there's a lot going
what is
on
the
with.
museum?
It's the Southern Vermont Arts Center, which is in Southern Vermont, where I grew up, and
Okay.
was actually in my backyard, not kidding. And I had art there in high school, so it's very cool to be a part of it. My husband's the
Wow.
architect on it, and it's very cool to be included in it because my grandfather had art there, and it's cool. So we're not heavily involved there. I mean, we're definitely picking finishes and furniture and stuff, but yeah, but it's still hard. There's a whole set of codes and rules and
Yeah.
a lot of people you have to go through for a decision, and then, money.
Yep. Yep. Fair. I mean, everybody, a lot of people want to be involved in museum projects or library projects, right? Those public work projects
Yeah,
where like it's such high impact on the
yeah.
community.
It's come along a little before, what but I had turned it down in the past. I think now I'm more receptive to those things that I've got enough people, and support.
Yeah. And what about locales? Is there a
Oh,
locale?
yeah. Anywhere. I mean, I would love to do something in Canada or, who knows? We took our honeymoon in Newfoundland, which was amazing, but,
Oh, I was
I think
there for the first time in a decade and a half. I was there last year.
a special place, man. It's so
Oh,
cool.
it is so good. It's such a great
I
place.
could definitely live there with, like, a root cellar and just be simple.
Okay.
But, yeah, so I think, I'd love to do stuff on the West Coast. I have a good friend in San Diego who wants a little help with her house, who used to be my roommate in Brooklyn, and so I'm excited to help her and see if that can open up some doors out there. And then just like as a group, I last year we went to Paris Deco Off, and I think we didn't go this year because we want to go to in Copenhagen. There's a design week that I want to try to take my team to
Yep.
a few days, and then I think the following next year we'll probably go to Deco Off again because it's just such
When
a fun
is
experience.
that in April? When is that?
It's in January, so it just happened.
Oh, it just happened.
And
Okay.
yeah, so we did it last year, and then we went to the Paris flea market too. We have to go to the flea markets. And so that was fun. And so I think it's nice to, if you can, offer those things to your team because I think it's the exposure for everybody. And then like there's obviously like team building and bonding that happens
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
doing stuff like that. And like it's expensive, but like I try to just, use miles and know that it's like I think it makes people more interested in like staying and working for you too. There's like some perks, right?
For sure. Yeah. And what does it look like now in family dynamics? Do you feel like you have raised your kids and are your kids going to now follow the same path that you've been taking them to job sites now over the
I
course of
know
their
those
life?
poor souls. Well, they're 7 and 10, and uh, then they have two older half brothers who
Yeah.
are 20. And yeah, I think hopefully I'm not raising huge snobs, but they love hotels and they comment on decor constantly and houses all the time. So we'll see. I mean, they'll have a good eye for sure. The little one is definitely like very creative and artistic. The older one's very creative as well, but the younger one has a little more like it seems like a mind for architecture. She does a lot of structures and things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, who knows?
And are you still snowboarding as much as you were earlier in life?
No, not as much. And I'm probably particular now because, like I said, I lived in Mammoth and Tahoe and Bend and have had a lot of good powder days. But I try to go as much as I can. I'm teaching my kids. I've taught them since they were very small to snowboard, and I volunteer for the school. When we go with the school, I have to go Friday, and I think it's going to be like below zero, so that's going to be horrible. But
Oh yeah, the polar vortex that's here right now is
yeah, but yeah, we try to get there as much as we can, and we have cross country skis. And we try to just like I don't know. If you live in a place like this, you have to embrace the winter and all the things
yeah.
that it gives you.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people just, it's like they seek shelter and don't come out until spring,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I'm good with like a cozy fire and stuff too, but
Wood burning fire?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
All right. Well, I got to tell you, I appreciate you taking time to do this with me. I like that we were able to connect, last week, and here we are recording this week. Fantastic storytelling. What a whirlwind of a life you've had to be
Right?
able to draw upon for what you do professionally. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It really is. Like when
Yeah, I guess when you talk about it, you know?
yeah, right. You take merit of like the things that you've done and the risks that you've taken at every stage.
Yeah. Well, I think
Uh,
to be a business owner, you have to be a risk taker probably, so
yeah. Well, I look, I have a lot of admiration for it. It's been a pleasure hearing your story and in the brevity that it was. And so I thank you. I hope that you are able to achieve what you want and that this small little trip to San Diego can land you a couple extra projects out on the West Coast because that would be amazing. And
yeah.
if anyone's listening in Canada and you're looking for someone that's eager to want to work here, well, now you know Brooke.
Yeah.
Happy to connect you.
Well, thank you. It's been awesome.
Brooke, thanks for the time.
All right. Have a good one.